Tonight, the Castries mayor calls out human rights advocates for silence on infractions against police. The Civil Service Association urges government to change its mind about a refusal to grant public officers a tax waiver on retroactive pay.
The country's ability to resuscitate, to grow, is because of some of the sacrifices made by those officers. And the only reward that they're asking for, which is not new, is asking for the increases that they were getting, the retroactive increases, to be paid as a back pay, be tax-free.
And St. Lucia continues to attract major A-listers. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good evening. It is Wednesday, the 14th of August, 2019. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow, channel 117, also being simulcast on Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9. We're live on Caribbean Hot 7 TV on Facebook, also on our website www.caribbeanhottv.com and our free Caribbean Hot FM mobile app. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Mayor Peterson Francis says it's hypocritical how human rights advocates have led public outcry about police shootings but went mum over recent incidents where two off-duty police officers intervened in a robbery, resulting in one of them being shot. Mayor Francis says the lack of outrage on the part of human rights advocates and citizens shows a great condemnation of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
We had gunshots. A police officer was injured, taken to hospital, and we were grateful that it was not fatal or more serious. And I've waited. I have not heard no human rights. I haven't heard any citizen, apart from the president of the Police Welfare Association, who came as a lone voice in the wilderness to commend the officers for what they have done. Nobody. So it means that it looked like in St. Lucia, the only place that human rights is taken seriously is when it comes to police matters. First of all, as I say, I must sympathize with the police officers who got injured on trying to execute their duty and being vigilant.
Moreover, Mayor Francis noted another issue facing the judicial system involving abuse of power by lawyers. He says yet again a lack of advocacy on the part of players who carry weight in the human rights arena is cause for concern. The mayor provided insight into a 4-year-long ongoing matter involving an individual and an attorney.
He paid his lawyers what he was asked to pay, but from the judgment money, which was paid to the lawyer, $140,000 to $150,000 was taken from that money. I mean, things now are very difficult. The money's in debt and everything. But for 4 years, he has been working. And that lawyer is not coming to court. Neither is anything being done. Incidentally, when I left the courthouse, La Place Carinage, he was there waiting, they stopped on the matter. And as fate would have it, when I was crossing the pedestrian, who stopped to allow me to pass? The same lawyer. The guy is upstairs, and the guy is just driving past La Place Carinage. There's nothing happening. Where are the human rights we have? Are only human rights apply to the police? Is it only applied to the city police, to the regular police? I mean, we have to fair. I mean, that hypocrisy we have in this country must stop.
According to Mayor Francis, the president of the Police Welfare Association, Travis Chico, has been the sole outspoken voice. He urges the human rights movement to not shy away from letting their voices be heard on matters outside of alleged police abuses. The president of the Civil Service Association, CSA, Cyprian Montrop, says it is unconscionable for government to refuse a tax-free retroactive pay to public servants. The CSA president is railing against the decision, highlighting what he says is the unfair treatment of those who have sacrificed to allow the government and the economy some breathing space. For the triennium 2013 to 2016, public officers were asked to forego a wage increase. They agreed to the wage freeze for 3 years, allowing the state the breathing space to maneuver its expenditure. The president of the Civil Service Association, CSA, Cyprian Montrop, says this sacrifice contributed to the government being able to revive the economy. Now that the government is boasting of economic growth, he says he is at a loss to understand the government's refusal to grant public officers a tax waiver for their retroactive pay.
2016 to 2019, we had not seen any increases in salaries until we began negotiations last year to today, and the government has agreed to provide increases to the public officers. Considering the sacrifices the public servants had made, one would have expected that government would have taken into consideration that the country's ability to resuscitate, to grow, is because of some of the sacrifices made by those officers. And the only reward that they're asking for, which is not new, is asking for the increases that they were getting, the retroactive increases, to be paid as a back pay, be tax-free.
According to Montrop, at every negative turn of events in the economy, governments always call on public officers to sacrifice, and public officers oblige. He says the union's request that the retroactive pay be tax-free is not unreasonable and is in fact a small concession.
We believe that the government was being unreasonable and not showing empathy to the workers, considering that you have a population of 170,000 persons and roughly 9,000 persons are the ones making the sacrifice for everybody else in the state. Whereas we see companies coming into St. Lucia who have done absolutely nothing for St. Lucia and enjoying taxpayers' money. And we as the taxpaying public are asking the government to give us a reprieve, and they flatly rejected it.
The CSA president is adamant that granting a tax waiver on retroactive payment to public officers will not have a detrimental impact on the public purse.
We don't have the exact figures, but we know that it would not add up to $1 million in a given year for the increases that would be paid. Why we're saying that is because of the size of the back pay, the size of the increases that we're referring to. So we can conclude that it's going to be less than $1 million in any given year. But what is bad about it is that we know that government has given assistance to private companies that are non-residents in excess of $4 or $5 million.
The CSA is calling on government to reconsider its decision of not granting tax waivers to public officers and hopes that with the payment of salaries in August, public officers will enjoy their retroactive pay free of income tax. The St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association has stepped forward to be the wind beneath the wings of one of its members. Michaelia Dorville is afflicted with diabetes. She is also an amputee and visually impaired, but she has not allowed anything to hold her back. She received financial support from the association to help fulfill her sporting dreams. Visually impaired, an amputee. None of these terms define Michaelia Dorville. She is a sportswoman living her dreams. Members of the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association have long been advocates for the overcoming of adversity. The association strives for a better quality of life for all members and encourages them to pursue personal aspirations. Well, Michaelia Augustine Dorville is doing just that, and with the help of the Diabetes and Hypertension Association, she plans to continue to soar. The visually impaired cricketer, who is also an amputee, is living life to the fullest and crushing stereotypes as she strives for personal excellence. Dorville was presented with a monetary donation from the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association to assist in her participation in a cricket tournament that will be held in Guyana.
Today we have a presentation that we're going to be doing to Michaelia Augustine Dorville, who's actually an advocate for the Diabetes and Hypertension Association. She's an individual who's actually living with diabetes. And I always say it's better to go to the people that are actually being affected and directly affected by it. as well as those who are indirectly affected by it.
Dorville spoke about her personal journey living with diabetes and how she found the strength to live a productive life. After being diagnosed at age 12, Dorville was able to complete her academic journey with the use of medication to control her condition. She was active in school life, but unfortunately, upon graduation from university, she fell ill.
It wasn't anything drastic for me personally, but I went to secondary school, did everything I had to, played sports, everything until I got to university and left university. That's when I got complications. I was sick for about 2 years or so. Then I had amputation of the left leg, which again, nothing really much happened after that. I still was functioning fine. Then after that, I started working at complication with my eyes, which currently I stand the left eye, there's no vision, and there's slight vision on the right, which is just light and a bit of shapes and shadows. But that's what it is for now. I'm still here and standing and going strong.
Dorville hopes to one day challenge the West Indies cricket team to a match against her own team. Blindfolds included for the West Indies team, of course. Are you thriving or barely surviving? The issue of minimum wage in St. Lucia has reared its head once again amidst talks of non-nationals' abuse of power over local employees. Providing insight into the topic is the president of the CSA, who says every sector in society should have an established minimum wage. Solange Alfred tells us more.
According to InvestStLucia.com, under the Labor and Labor Legislation Guidelines under subtopic minimum wage, it states, quote, "There is no national minimum wage. However, there is currently a minimum wage commission in effect to make recommendations on the legitimacy of establishing a minimum wage and the level at which this wage structure should be established. Note, this commission, according to the Constitution, must review the minimum wage every 3 years. CSA President Cyprian Montroup takes it a step further and says not only should the island have a minimum wage, but every industry should have its own minimum wage as well, which takes into account the standard of living on island.
Every country should have some standards because every citizen needs to live comfortably, considering the ordinary basket that is necessary for survival. And for you to be able to meaningfully live, you need a minimum wage. And I don't think it's fair to say you have a minimum wage for one whole country, but you'd look at sectors and have minimum wages for most sectors. And you could also have maybe a country minimum wage so that nobody lives below a minimum standard.
The conversation of fair pay was brought up amidst talks of foreign nationals abusing the privilege of setting up shop on island and exploiting employees. Cyprian says pressure needs to be applied to government to bring about change.
So I think it's important that the Labour Act has made provisions in there for minimum wage to be implemented. It is for us as public officers, us as unions, us as private citizens, to put pressure on government to let them know that we can't continue to allow, especially non-national foreign companies, to come into the country and exploit our own people because we do not have a set minimum wage to protect the citizens of the country. I think all of us need to echo that sentiment and to tell Parliament and to tell the government that we need to change that.
The Labour Code of St. Lucia was passed in Parliament in November 2006, 13 years ago, and came into effect August 2015, 4 years ago. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you, Solange. You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. When we come back, animal owners are warned that they can face prosecution over the hazard of stray animals on the island's roads. A crackdown on littering and public urination is set to intensify. And an A-list comedian hearts St. Lucia. That and more when we return.